today we're on a journey probably about 35 miles from Port Moody, British Columbia. Reed Point Marina. We're going to go out through the harbor, around Point Grey. We're going to go down to South Arm and up the Fraser to Captain's Cove Marina to deliver the boat for some service work. So that gives you an idea of where we are and where we're going. It looks like it's going to be a great day. We are predicting minimal wind, minimal wave. We should have favorable currents. Cruise speed should be about 12 knots. And it might take up to about 4 hours to complete the journey. So buckle up. Here we go. Contrast to our last Tollycraft 48 journey down to Ensenada. That's a little bit nicer. I'll turn up my temperature here a little bit. Got some wonderful heat blowing out. We're off and running. Got a little bit of a current behind us here. Picked up about 1.5 knots. Second Narrows crossing. No problems thus far. We're cruising around 1600, 1550 RPM. And yeah, under the bridge. This boat we don't have to ask for a lift, which is kind of nice. Ironworkers Memorial, Linwood Marina. And we're into the harbor. Well, we're in the harbor now, been underway about 50 minutes. Doing about 12 knots. 1600 RPM on the 671M. And some activity going on. Stopped in the middle of the harbor just to do a quick engine room check. The boat's been sitting for a while, but she's running well now. It's nice and quiet. It's warm in here. Nice to have the climate control. Got all kinds of navigational assistance, so if I get lost, I likely have no excuse. Stanley Park and downtown. College and check in next at First Narrows. We picked up a little speed here under First Narrows. Heading out of the inner harbor. Just a couple of tenths of a knot. Been underway now for about 55, 56 minutes. So far so good. Maybe altering over that way a little bit. Stanley Park, Prospect Point. And I'm going to go stick a rag in that window to stop it vibrating. Looks like we picked a good day. 20 minutes in. Just cruising along. We picked the best possible day for this. Picking our way through the anchorage here. Go towards Point Grey and the university here. Got some fishermen out here at the Q62, as they often are. Cowan Point, Roger Curtis over there. Point Atkins. We're still doing about 11.5 knots. Easy cruise. Just about 1550 RPM. And we're showing about 550 degrees Fahrenheit on our EGT. Gonna have to go around some fishermen. That is where we're gonna turn up the south arm of the Fraser River. So this is as close to like cruise flight as we're gonna get on this trip. Couldn't have picked a better day to be in the Strait. Boat's running well. So basically, I'm just trying to keep my head on a swivel here. Although there's not much traffic, there is a bit of usually some fishing around the north arm here. We've just gone past the north arm of the Fraser. This boat is nice. It's got a lot of good rearward visibility, so you don't have to stick your head out a wing door every 10 minutes to make sure no one's sneaking up on you. We've got a Furuno charting product over there, Time Zero, running on a small dedicated computer, an older legacy Garmin display, and then of course Navionics on an iPad. The center display is going to be a screen for our new stabilizer system, which is the reason why we're running the boat to the yard today for installation. And over there, of course, we've got a legacy Furuno radar, which works really well. I'm not using it right now. The visibility is really excellent. Got all the planes coming in. We're on the landing track for YVR. You know, this enclosed bridge on this boat is absolutely fantastic. I mean, I just spent 4 days at the lower helm of a Tollycraft 48 running it from San Francisco to Ensenada. And I tell you, 671N, you really get to hear it when it's next to you, but this boat, it's just a non-issue. Superb. We have 2 VHFs here in the pilot house, separate units, autopilot. Got a spare dedicated GPS. This boat has a bilateral AIS, which is nice. It's an incredibly smooth ride today. Incredibly nice boat. So these are the days when you say, wow, that guy does this for a living. Wow. It's pretty good. I'll open the back door so you get an idea of what the exhaust on one of these boats sounds like. Nice diamond sea glaze man door. Yeah, so it's a little louder. This one's not so bad. We're running at about 1600, so there's more water getting through into the mufflers. Some of the 671Ns, particularly with the smaller water pumps, are really loud. They got a heck of a bark out the tailpipe. It's just, there's no turbocharger to muffle it, and they have very small water pumps from the factory. This one we've upgraded with the GMP pumps. Moves a little more water, makes it a little quieter. Of course, the pilot house really helps. Only challenge here is we're steaming right into the sun, so we've got to be extra careful for lumber on the trip down the coast from San Francisco to Ensenada. We just run along no problem, and you know, there's nothing out there. I mean, the biggest thing you're going to hit is maybe a turtle. Not like that around here in British Columbia. Quite often this is like a lumber yard out here. We're doing okay today. This is an earlier Tully 48. This is a 1980 boat. Really heavy. Cut a hole in the dash to install the bow thruster control, and that's what a Tollycraft 48 dash looks like. pretty amazing. We'll be looking at some hull thicknesses on this boat as we install the bow thruster and the stabilizer fins on her. And that's going to be coming up. Done a few neat things here. We installed the jog switch for the autopilot down here, easy to get at, and then we've built a teak box for our autopilot, or sorry, bow thruster control, which I think looks pretty good. That's a variable speed bow thruster, so it's not just on off, and it's hydraulic. That's gonna be an interesting project, and maybe you'll want to follow along. We are officially haze gray and underway. Okay, we're 2 hours 25 minutes in. Conditions are the same. We're just approaching Sandheads. Actually, that is the old, what we call the light ship, and that's the jetty. So we're going to use a little local knowledge. We're going to disengage our autopilot. We're going to sweep around here. A great day on the Strait. Now, just going to come around the navigational marker here. Sierra 1 buoy. There's a series of buoys that take you up the Fraser. Now this is a somewhat of a deep water port, right? Lucky today, our timing is good. There's going to be pretty much slack water, so we won't have to contend with too much of a current coming down the river. Over there, of course, we have the Canadian Gulf Islands. No fishermen out here today. There's probably not an opening. Ahead of us is the Delta Port Container Terminal. Maybe you can hear the bell on Sierra 1. You're seeing there, obviously that's the Sandheads, what we call the light ship. Now off to the left of that is probably about 5 or 6 feet of water at best. So, you know, although it seems we're like quite a distance from Richmond, if you really wanted to, you could probably walk across that water like the good Lord Jesus Christ. We'll look back towards Bowen Island and Howe Sound there. It's a great day. Had some really wild rides up this river in the past, particularly when the current's coming out strong and the wind's blowing in against it. Now, the jetty that you see there at high tides is almost awash, almost underwater. But a few people have used their chart plotters with their automatic routing function and have gone over that thing. I really don't understand how you could do it. But while all this stuff makes us look like geniuses, a little local knowledge is helpful. So we're going to steam up the river up to the Big Bend, Steveston. At that point, we'll hang a right and up to Captain's Cove. So far, so good. Oh, it's always fun. That's a sight from which a grown man should turn his head. So right around here, you know, we've just passed Steveston. The main branch of the Fraser goes up there up Woodward Reach. If you want to go to Ladner, you could go down here. That's Sea Reach, and that'll take you down to Ladner and some of those villages along there. One thing to think about though is that those two markers, those are range markers, so you can line them up. There's lights on the top, so you line them up at night so you don't run into the thing. But don't go too close to that, because there tends to be some spoil. The two outflows come down like this, and it leaves a pile right there. So you can run into a bit of trouble if you cut it too close. So once you get up there, there's a further range marker up there which you would then transfer to for night transits up the river. The river can be very confusing at night. There's a lot of lights up here that make it hard to determine what are navigation lights and what are just random lights. We're listening to channel 11, which is Victoria Traffic, which controls vessel movements in our area, and also on 16 as well. So yeah, it's not difficult navigation, but good idea to keep an eye out. And we'll just stay on the right side, but we're going to fade over to the left to follow the channel. Hey, result. That's Captain's Cove Marina there. So we are almost there. I've been slowly pulling back the power. Let the engines cool down a bit. Not chopping it to take away all the cooling water. It's amazing how quickly the EGT comes down on this one. So if you were to go down this way, it would take you right into Ladner. There's quite a strong current. I don't know if you can tell. We're crabbing sideways quite to the right quite a bit. So we have to stay up to get around that marker. Up that way to Annacis Island, and where there is where BC Ferries maintains their ferries at Dees Dock. And under there, of course, is the Dees Island Tunnel. Captain's Cove's ahead, and you can see the cars going over the bridge over there heading for the tunnel. And barring any last minute screw-ups, might be able to put this one into the bank. We'll be coming back when we're on the dock, hopefully. Okay, so here we are, secure at Captain's Cove. Elapsed time today is about 3 hours 45 minutes. We went about 37 nautical miles up the river out of the harbor, and no trouble getting in here, nice and quiet. Vessel ran perfectly, no issues whatsoever. So we're secure here, and then tomorrow morning we'll be in the travel lift. All things going well, which they rarely do in the boat business. And we get to go home and have that well-deserved beer on the pier. A good-looking Tolly 43 sitting right there. Anyway, that's another one in the bank. There will be a lot more coming on this boat. We have a big project we're about to embark on. So she's going to be here in the boatyard for probably 2 or 3 weeks. Major installation that you may find interesting. So stick around and have a good one.